It is not a coincidence that you are reading this. Something deep inside you has led you here, searching for answers, trying to understand why people treat you the way they do. You have always been kind, helpful, and respectful, believing that goodness should bring people closer, earning their appreciation and respect. But instead of being valued, you often find yourself ignored, taken for granted, or even treated unfairly. Why does this happen? This is not just bad luck. There is a deeper reason behind it, rooted in human nature and psychology. The famous psychologist Carl Jung spoke of the shadow, the hidden part of the human mind that influences behavior in ways people do not even realize. One of the ways this shadow reveals itself is in how people react to kindness, especially when it is given without limits. When you do not set clear boundaries, some people may subconsciously perceive you as weak or easy to take advantage of. The truth is, humans instinctively test limits. When someone is always available, always willing to help, and never asks for anything in return, it can create an unexpected response. Instead of being grateful, people may begin to assume that your kindness is something they are entitled to. Not everyone does this intentionally, but over time, it leads to an imbalance in relationships. The more you give without expecting anything back, the more people start to take your presence for granted. This does not mean you should stop being kind. Kindness is a beautiful quality, and the world needs more of it. However, kindness must be balanced with self-respect and clear boundaries. Otherwise, instead of being seen as a strength, it may be mistaken for weakness. Today, you will discover the 5 key reasons why being too kind can lead to losing the respect of others. More importantly, you will learn how to protect yourself from being taken for granted while still staying true to who you are. By the time you reach the end of this, you will have a clear understanding of why this happens and how you can maintain your kindness without letting it be misunderstood or exploited. People often assume that kindness is always rewarded with kindness in return, but reality doesn't always work that way. If you are the type of person who always helps, always listens, and never says no, you may have noticed that instead of appreciation, some people start to take you for granted. This is because unlimited kindness can sometimes be mistaken for weakness. Humans naturally test boundaries, and when they see that someone is always available and never pushes back, they may start to believe that this person can be controlled or used without consequence. It is not always intentional, but it happens because people respect those who show strength, not just generosity. Psychologists call this the benevolence exploitation effect. It means that when a person constantly gives without asking for anything in return, others start to see their generosity as something they are entitled to rather than something to be grateful for. If you are always the one saying yes, people will assume that you do not have limits, and they will keep taking more. Instead of seeing your kindness as a strength, they may start to see you as someone who can be pushed aside or ignored. At the same time, kindness can make some people uncomfortable. There are those who struggle to accept generosity without suspecting a hidden motive. This happens because your kindness acts like a mirror, reflecting something about themselves they are not ready to face. Some people have been hurt in the past and have built walls of distrust. When they see someone who is genuinely kind without expecting anything in return, it challenges their beliefs. Instead of accepting kindness, they reject it because it makes them feel vulnerable. This is why some people react to kindness with suspicion, coldness, or even hostility. It is not about you, but about their own insecurities. Understanding this can help you protect yourself. You do not have to change who you are, but you should be aware that not everyone will respond to kindness in the way you expect. The key is to set clear boundaries and make sure that your kindness is recognized and respected rather than taken for granted or misunderstood. Society often rewards strength, independence, and competition over kindness. Many people believe that success comes from being tough, standing your ground, and putting yourself first. In a world where power and self-interest dominate, kindness can sometimes be seen as an unusual or even naive trait. When someone is kind without expecting anything in return, it challenges the way many people think. They are used to relationships being built on exchanges, one favor for another, one act of help repaid later. When they encounter someone who gives without calculating what they will get in return, it unsettles them. Some may see it as admirable, but others may view it as foolish or weak. This is why kindness does not always get the respect it deserves. People who thrive in a world based on power and control may look down on those who choose to act with compassion and generosity. They may dismiss kindness as a sign of weakness or an inability to compete. This is not because kindness is truly weak, but because it threatens the way they see the world. They have built their lives around the idea that you must fight for what you want. And when they see someone who operates differently, it forces them to question whether their way is the only way. Instead of accepting that kindness can be a conscious and strong choice, they reject it in order to maintain their belief that power is the only thing that matters. At the same time, people who are always kind can sometimes find themselves trapped in a role they never intended to take on. When you are always available to help, always willing to listen, and always the one offering support, others may start to assume that you do not need anything in return. Over time, they stop asking how you feel, what you need, or whether you are okay. Your presence becomes something they rely on, but not something they appreciate. The more you give, the more they take, without realizing that you too have limits. This is why kindness must be balanced with self-respect. It is not about becoming selfish, but about making sure that your kindness is valued rather than exploited. True generosity does not mean giving everything away without limits. It means offering kindness in a way that is healthy, respected, and appreciated. When kindness is given without limits, it can start to lose its value. If people know that you will always be there to help, always ready to listen, and never ask for anything in return, they may start to see your kindness as something ordinary rather than special. It is not because they are bad people, but because human nature tends to take things for granted when they are always available. Just like anything that is given freely and without conditions, kindness can start to feel less significant when it is never balanced with boundaries. This does not mean you should stop being kind, but it does mean that kindness should be given with awareness. If you always say yes, always put others before yourself, and never take time to care for your own needs, you may find yourself feeling drained, unappreciated, or even resentful. Over time, this can lead to emotional exhaustion, where you feel like you are constantly giving but never receiving. This is why setting limits is not selfish. It is necessary to maintain your well-being. Respect comes not just from kindness, but from having the ability to set boundaries. When you give too much without asking for anything in return, you unintentionally teach people that your needs do not matter. If you never express when you are tired, when you need help, or when you need space, others may assume that you don't have any needs at all. This is how people who are naturally kind end up feeling invisible. They are always there for others, yet when they need support, they find that no one is there for them. The truth is that kindness is most powerful when it is given in a way that maintains balance. People respect and appreciate kindness more when they know it is a choice rather than an obligation. When you set limits on how much you give, when you make sure that your own needs are met as well, and when you say no when necessary, your kindness will be valued instead of taken for granted. True generosity is not about losing yourself in helping others. It is about knowing when to give while also respecting yourself. By setting boundaries, you ensure that your kindness remains something meaningful rather than something people come to expect without gratitude. Have you ever felt unappreciated because of your kindness? Have people ever taken you for granted? If so, you are not alone. The key is balance. Do not stop being kind, but also do not let people misuse your generosity. You are not weak for being kind. You are strong. But true strength comes from setting limits, knowing your worth, and choosing when and how to give your kindness. What do you think? Have you found a way to protect your kindness without losing yourself? Share your thoughts.